All right, we ready? Rock stars, Eric Andreas, your guitar sage here. It is the 9th of February. Today we're going to be learning all about slide guitar. Where's my guitar? It's over here. We've been having some technical difficulties all morning long, so yay! And my cat died yesterday, so to stack that on top, yeah, my cat of 15 years. So I'm a little bit on the low side today, but we're going to have a good time. We're going to learn about slide guitar. We're going to have RJ Ronquillo on here, and I'm going to tell you about a course, a super course that we did with him. In fact, it's the #1 slide guitar lesson course on the Udemy platform, which if you don't know that, you need to. Mike, is it the very first link below?
Let me see. It is the first 2 links below are RJ's 2 courses.
Ah, beautiful. Okay, so... and we're going to have RJ on here in just one moment. Because of our technical difficulties, I'm going to be actually handing the show off to RJ for a few minutes. You're going to hear him play, and he's literally going to be getting your questions ready. Okay, he's going to be getting your answers to your questions ready. So here's what I want you to do. A couple things. I want you to get all of your slide guitar lesson questions, all of your slide guitar questions now. Get them ready right now, because after RJ plays, he's going to be with us for a few minutes, okay? And then I'm going to let him go because we wanted this to be side by side. Anyhow, long story short, that's not going to happen right now. All right? So, but to let you know very quickly, the 2 links below, RJ, so you guys know it's been a dream of mine to work with other artists and to build courses with them. That's one of the things I've wanted to do all along. RJ came into the studio here. We built this really cool course. And the very first one is basically how to play slide guitar. The second course is the top 30 guitar licks, slide guitar licks, okay? So the ones that you're gonna go to all the time, the ones that you're gonna use all the time. Both of those are available today. You can buy them for full price, I think $59.99, $69.99, somewhere around there. Or you can get them for, I think, like $9.99 a piece. So if you're like me, and you like those real fancy coffees, that's a little bit more than one of those fancy coffees. So you know what to do. You know the right thing. All right. So links below. If RJ is ready, we're going to bring him on. He's going to play for you, and he is ready. There he is. All right. So get those questions ready for him. He's going to play first, and then basically we're handing it off to him, and because our audio is not syncing right now. So RJ, thank you so much for being here, brother. So appreciate your stellar playing and your stellar teaching. And here we go, handing it off to RJ, and then I'll be back, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. Does that work for you, RJ?
Sure.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you, Eric. Hey, guys. Good morning. Guys and gals. I'm just going to jam a little bit on my national here. Whoa, awesome. Well, good morning, good day to you y'all. Thanks to Your Guitar Sage, Eric, for having me. And thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to do a little chat takeover here, I guess, and answer some of your slide guitar questions. I got to make sure that I'm looking at the camera because I have a tendency of looking down at my screen when I should be looking at you guys. So Kevin Kazmai, Harley Sloan, hello. Sergio likes the course on Udemy. Thank you, Sergio. I appreciate that. Yeah, so this guitar, if y'all are wondering, this is a National Resonators, or National Resophonic, that's the name of the company. This is a Triolean. So it's a single cone resonator. I don't know, actually I do know why they call it a Triolean. Way back in the day when it first came out, this used to be a tricone, meaning it had 3 separate cones. Somewhere they decided to cut the 3 cones budget, for their budget, and just put in 1 basic cone. But they decided to keep the name Triolean. So it's kind of confusing at first, but that's what it is. Let's see what you guys are asking. That's right. My slide courses are on sale this week, 75% off. So if you're interested in learning slide guitar, if you're a beginner or if you've even dabbled in slide guitar, there's 2 courses to choose from. And let's see, Ben Thomas here, one of my good friends from college. Hello. I think I saw a couple questions. Let's see here. Francois is asking, is only the slide touching the strings or partly with the fretting fingers as well? For the most part, when I'm playing just slide guitar, it's just the slide, the glass part that's touching the strings. Now you'll also notice that sometimes I'll put my bare fingers behind the slide, and that's in order to kind of mute out any frequencies and other ringing strings to keep it clean. So it actually acts as like a safety net when you have your other fingers behind the slide to mute, the bad notes. And I like to keep my slide on my pinky. That's just me. Some people like to do it on their ring finger, and you can do that. So let's see here. We got some questions here. John Brady, I just saw that question. Sorry. I hope that explains it. BTS Michelle, what are your tunings for slides? So I'm an open D, which is basically a dropped open E tuning. So it's a little out of tune after playing. So open D and open E are essentially the same tuning, just one is tuned down lower, but it's the same intervals between strings, and it's the same kind of chords and licks that you would play in open E work for open D. But my favorite tuning is open G tuning, which is a little bit different than this. And the reasons why I like that are because there are certain intervals amongst the strings, among the way that they're tuned, and that I like, and it helps me. I feel like I have cooler licks in that tuning. But if you're asking, the course that that my Udemy course is, the tuning that I teach in is open E. So the licks that I teach in the courses will work in the tuning that I'm in now, which is open D, because it's the same frets, the same relationships. Let's see what else. Sorry, my heater just went on. Let me see if I can shut it off for you, so I'm getting a cleaner feed. Hold on. Technical difficulties on both ends. And of course, it's not working. Never mind. Okay, we'll roll with it. Let's see here. Drew Dietz is asking, does it matter what finger you put the slide on? It only matters if it's for your comfort. For me, I can actually play slide on any finger. I mean, some people play it on their middle finger. Some people actually play it on their index finger, which is weird. There's a guitarist named Dave Hole, who I think plays it on his index finger. So it's really more about your preference, what's comfortable to you. I prefer it on my pinky. A lot of people use their pinky because it frees up 3 adjacent fingers to play chords with. So I can go from fretting strings to sliding really easily. But then you look at guys like Dwayne Allman and Derek Truxton, they like to use the ring finger, which to me, the ring finger feels a little more stable. You know, it's a stronger finger compared to your pinky. So that might result in maybe having a better intonated, slide notes, and also a little more control. But for me, I prefer the pinky. It's really just kind of trial and error, just kind of play around with what finger works for you. But most people will stick with either pinky or ring finger. Keenan O'Keefe is asking, do I like glass better than metal slides? And I have spoken in the past, and in my course, I have admitted that glass slides to me, all around, whether I'm playing acoustic or resonator or electric, glass slides, I prefer them because the tone is a little mellower, it's a little rounder, and I like the feel. It's actually, like, lately I've been noticing it's more about the feel of the glass on the metal strings as opposed to having metal on metal. When I'm sliding, this feels a little smoother and a little slicker. And tonally, metal slides on metal strings can, depending on your setup, it can sound a little bit brash. But more than anything, part of choosing the material of a slide, a lot of it comes down to the size and the weight and the thickness of the slide. And you've heard me talk about how I like thick-walled glass slides. That means I don't have any right now. I'm kind of experimenting with this little one from Rock Slide. But I prefer thicker, heavier glass slides because they do help with sustain and make the notes sing out a little bit sweeter. Whereas if you buy a cheaper, thinner metal slide, like your basic, like a Dunlop slide that you just kind of buy at your local guitar store, sometimes that won't sound great right out of the box. And that's another thing that can kind of prevent you from continuing with learning slide. I like for me, in my personal experience, when I first bought a slide, it was one of those cheap Dunlop slides that was just like really thin metal. And the moment I put it on my electric guitar strings that wasn't set up for slide, it just sounded horrible. And I kind of put it in a drawer and didn't really touch slide. I'm like, slide guitar isn't for me. It just doesn't sound good. But it took me experimenting with guitar setup, string gauges, different materials of slide, whether glass, brass, nickel, porcelain, ceramic, all these different types of materials makes a difference. So unfortunately, you kind of got to buy different gear, which we're all used to because we're guitar players, but you kind of have to experiment with what works for you and what feels best to you. So yes, glass slides. Some people, you know, old blues guys would use whatever they had, whether it was a pocket knife or a beer bottle, a spoon. I don't know if you've ever seen the video of this, I think he's an African guitar player, playing with a spoon in his mouth. I think it was in his mouth. It's ridiculous. So you can use anything. Bonnie Raitt uses her middle finger, yes. She uses a glass slide. She uses a heavy walled glass slide. Willie Burnett, can I address ceramic slides and how far should the slide go onto your finger? So that's another thing that's, you know, personal preference. Ceramic slides I've bought in the past. They're similar to glass slides, I think, as far as feel and as far as weight. Depending if they're rough or polished will kind of dictate the feel on the strings. I believe the ceramic slides I had were pretty smooth. So I liken it to glass slides more than anything. As far as the fit, this is also dependent on your personal preference. Some people like the slide to only go past like that first knuckle. I mean, go right above that first knuckle so they can bend it. And I do have a couple slides, if I can show you, that are supposed to fit like that. Like this is an Ariel Posen signature slide from Rock Slide, which is, he's a great guitar player if you've never checked him out. But his, I've got smaller fingers than him, but his is supposed to go like right above that joint. Mine actually goes all the way down. And since I have small fingers, most slides that I buy, you know, sink all the way down to my hand. So I've learned how to play that way. But I also have like short little stubby slides that'll hang out kind of in the middle of the finger. But since I've learned how to play slide with the slides fitting all the way down, that's just what's comfortable to me. With certain slides, if it's hanging out too close to the top, I'm too afraid that they're going to fall off. So it feels more secure when it's snug down on my finger, even if it goes all the way down and I can't bend any of my joints. That's just the way it feels weird, but I've learned how to play like that. Jay Sommerfeld, sorry. Do I raise my action when playing slide? Yes, I actually, I raise my action and then I also go a little bit heavier on the string gauges. So on a basic electric, if I had like a Telecaster or a Strat or a SG, what have you, my normal string gauge when I'm playing normal guitar is 10 to 46, kind of just that standard light gauge string. When I set up an electric guitar for slide, I usually go to 11, just a little bit heavier. Doesn't have to be super, super heavy. And I'll raise the action at the bridge ever so slightly to where my slide isn't completely fretting down the string. And this is also dependent on the weight of your slide and how heavy-handed you are when you're playing. So if you have a heavy glass slide, which is what I like to use a lot, sometimes I have to raise the action higher than I would if I had a lighter metal slide, because the weight difference kind of changes the way you play and how heavy it frets down on the strings. What else? But on acoustic guitars, it can also be a little bit harder to adjust your action because there's not an easy way to do it. So sometimes I suggest people take their guitar to a luthier. But they all, I mean, there's ways you can MacGyver it as well. I've heard of people putting a pen or a pencil down by the nut, and that will actually raise the action on this end enough where you can have higher action for slide. But that's not, ideal. But in a pinch, you can do that. And I think they also make devices that are specific, like a metal nut that you can raise the action with down here. But as far as raising the action on an acoustic bridge or a resonator bridge, I would take it to a qualified luthier. Let's see. Denny Welch says, how about a plastic slide? I don't think plastic slides would work optimally. I have heard of plastic material or plastic style material for slides and weird shaped slides. And I have one I think it's made out of plastic, but it's made to sound like a sitar, which I don't have it around with me. What is it called? It's an interesting slide, but it's made of plastic and it doesn't sound like a normal slide. It sounds like a sitar. What's my favorite tuning? Again, open G tuning is usually my favorite. Kevin Kazmai has a budget Tele Squire with 11s for slide playing in practice and works well. Yeah, that's something that I suggest to a lot of people is if you can afford it or if you have the means, is have one guitar dedicated for slide. That way, it's ready to go. Especially when I started learning how to play slide, I had one guitar and it was very hard for me to set it up for slide and then go back to regular playing. So it's always helpful to have one guitar specifically for slide playing. Whether you can get a cheap acoustic, a used acoustic that usually works well for a lot of people. And a lot of times, cheaper acoustics already have that high action, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I highly suggest if you can, have one guitar set up specifically for a slide. Let's see here. Linda Bergeron is asking, how about the shape of the slide? Bottleneck shape. I have a lot of slides. Like I collect slides as well, and some of them are tapered. Some of them have cutouts. I don't know if you can see, but on this slide, it's got a specific cutout that's supposed to help you bend your finger right by the joint. But since it doesn't fit, the way it's supposed to fit, it doesn't really work for me. As far as the shape, the straighter and the smoother, the better. I've gotten some kind of artisan slides that were, I believe, ceramic, and there's some inconsistencies around it. It's not a perfectly shaped, cylinder. So they're odd shape, and that's not the optimal way to learn slide because you're going to get some dead spots or the strings aren't going to ring equally. But bottlenecks are, a typical slide shape. You also have like the Duane Allman Corsidian glass bottle. But most manufacturers just make perfectly straight cylinders. What else? Strickland, Garage and Aviation. So what slide do I get for my first one? There seems to be so many different types. What would you suggest for a student of yours? I would get two. I would get one metal slide and I would get one glass slide. Check out, Dunlop is a very common company that you can find anywhere. Guitar Center, Sweetwater. I would look to see if they have something thicker. Because for me, like I said, a thinner slide was kind of what kept me from getting into slide guitar. And once I got nicer slides, thicker slides, more expensive slides, that made a big difference with it sounding better and me gaining more interest in it. So if I'm not sure exactly what Dunlop has out right now, but they seem to be, more budget friendly compared to, say, a company like Rock Slide or Diamond bottlenecks, which is what I use a lot. But I know they make like the Joe Perry slide. I don't know if Eric has that one, but a lot of people get that Joe Perry. What is it called? Something bone slide or something. I think that's ceramic. That's actually a really nice slide. It's thick. It's gonna sustain well. It's gonna sing well. So I would get maybe something like that, and maybe some sort of a metal slide or a brass slide that's heavy in weight, because I think you're going to enjoy slide more if you have a heavier slide. So a couple more questions before I hand it back over to Eric.
There you are.
Yeah.
Right now, can I answer one more question? I will do, Shannon Arnold is asking an interesting question. Am I seeing scales in your mind as I'm playing? Not really. When I'm playing slide, it's not really scales that I'm seeing. I'm seeing more shapes. For instance, in this tuning, a very typical scale or shape, Bach shape, is on the 12th fret. So I like to do these descending. Wow, this strap is in the way. Hold on. So if that's my root note. So it's really just going 12, 10 and 12 on every string. It's kind of half pentatonic, half mixolydian sounding, but that's just the easiest thing to remember. It's easier than a pentatonic scale because it's the same frets on every string. And just playing around with that shape, that box. It's almost like the B.B. King box, but it's something that you can hear it in Duane Allman's playing a lot. And then he goes out, but that's like the easiest, kind of the first scale or box shape that I teach. So it's not really scales as like a pentatonic scale or a major scale. I'm visualizing more of shapes across the fretboard in this tuning because, it's not standard tuning. So it's almost like a whole new instrument that you have to learn when you're learning open tunings and different tunings. So you can work them out, like where you can figure out a typical pentatonic scale. But usually for me, when I'm in the moment and I'm improvising, I'm just looking at shapes. So, Eric, back to you.
Yeah, brother. Thank you so much for that, RJ. I really appreciate that. I wish we could have had this going back and forth. That's what we wanted, but this didn't turn out too bad either. So, number one, they got to hear you play slide instead of me. Although, I'll say, guys, I'm telling you, that course that you'll find, the two courses, RJ, thank you, number one, for making those courses, because, yeah, I dorked around with the slide my whole life. You dork around with it. You pick one up, and you're like, well, I can make noises, but the actual getting the resolution of some of the licks and stuff. When you were actually teaching that course and you were in the studio, and I was like just listening, and I had my guitar tuned to yours, and I was sitting there like just kind of following along just by ear, knowing that you were up here with that 1210 box that you teach in the course. And I was like, oh my God. And literally it clicked for me. And then I just went home with that open tuning and with a 12-bar blues chord progression and just start picking it out just like you would the regular licks and everything. So number one, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for creating that course. And thank you for discounting it so drastically like you've done this week. So I know folks are going to really take advantage of that. So that's amazing.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Yeah, guys, RJ, we wanted to do this back and forth thing, and I wanted to start the show off a little bit so you guys could hear more, but alas, we just ran into some difficulties where we just had to hand it off. But we're here, okay? Good. So glad you guys are here, and RJ, again, thank you so much. If you guys want to take advantage of those links, they're right below. Otherwise, let's get into some more questions. If you do have slide questions, I will answer them to the best of my abilities. I do not play slide like RJ plays slide. Obviously, it's practice, right? It's all about practice, and RJ is a killer player. So, any questions that you guys might have about slide, I could get to those. If you have other questions about guitar, let's get to those as well. Really quickly, another thing that you guys may want to do is one of the 3 links below, it's probably the 3rd link below, I'm pretty sure, is the top 30 guitar lessons that I teach all my students. If you are watching this broadcast, if you can hear my voice right now and you have not gone through those 30 lessons, or if you're not in UGS already, friends, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. Get in there right now. It's absolutely free. I created that course because I had so many folks being online and having, well, between all the channels, I have over 1 million followers, 1 million subscribers. And so obviously to answer these questions, it kind of hurts my heart to have someone ask me a question and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I've got to spend some time with my family, but this person's genuinely took the time to ask this question and I genuinely want to answer it for them. How can I do that? That's why I created the 30 essential, it's basically the top 30 lessons that I teach all my students. And now it's like 30-something or another lessons. The course is entirely free, PDF support, whole 9 yards. The 3rd link below, I believe. So take advantage of that. In fact, if you have gone through those 30 lessons, if you would, in the chat, say 30, 30, just so other folks know that this is legit, it's really free, and it really is amazing. We've had so many folks take this course. I think we said over 500,000 combined folks have taken this course. So check that out. All right, let's get to some questions here and let me know how I can help. Also, if you're watching this, say on your mobile phone right now and you can't click through and join up and all the rest, then text me, 833-744-0154. I'll say it again, 833-744-0154. Text free, F-R-E-E, and I will set it up for you, okay? If you're in there already, if you're in the free 30 already, then take advantage of, go to UGS Pro, go Pro, okay? And you see folks right in here, they're saying 30 and then Pro. That means they took those 30 lessons and then they said, this is amazing, let's go Pro, okay? So beautiful, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Not a question, can I suggest getting a Discord server for getting in touch with you? Yes, you can suggest it. I don't know what a Discord server is. But there's many different, what is that, Mike? Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk later.
All right. All right. Yeah, good, Marine Mama. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Someone asked, can you play slide with open tuning? Yes, and in fact, hold on here. I'm going to switch guitars. And in fact, slide is best done with open tuning. I say best done. It's just different. Is really what it is. It's just like is open tuning best for playing guitar? Well, I don't believe it is. I believe because it's droney, you know what I mean? So like you have this chord, and the whole point of the guitar tuned the way it is, it allows you to play in all different keys, and you're not bound to it. Whereas this, here I'm in, like RJ was, I think he was either an open E or open D. This is open D, and so if I'm gonna put a jam track on, I'm gonna put it in the key of...
You're in the wrong spot.
No. Oh, you can't hear me. You can't hear me at all, huh?
No, it's below the numbers.
Ah, boy. You want to switch it up real quick?
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, we're getting a little hookup here with my guitar, and then we'll talk about it here in just a second. So
It's a low crawl.
that's army crawl right there.
I wasn't in the army, but yes.
All right, so now we should be good. So the idea is you have an open D chord, and then that allows for some of these licks where you could kind of you can kind of have these droning notes happening. That's the point of open tunings, is it allows you to do things that you might not normally do. Of course, the scales and the chords and all the forms, everything's going to change. That's the whole point, right? So you can do slide guitar on standard tunings. U2 does this a lot, Red Hot Chili Peppers. There's a lot of folks that do it. And the sound that you typically get, well, I mean, you get this sliding type. You get these type sounds, right? Just like regular slide. But because you don't get to do stuff like, or you don't have these. You don't have all these licks that are immediately underneath your fingers like an open tuning would do. So even though I personally am not a big fan of open tunings for anything else other than slide, that's just honestly a personal preference. There are guitar players that are much better than me that love open tunings, okay? So one guy's opinion. Yes, when you say open tuning, you mean tuning to the chord, right? So this is a D major chord. Okay. Technically, we could capo up to E, or some of these other keys. If you start capoing up too far, then you're kind of losing the whole point. And oh, by the way, this is a B&G little sister. If you're wanting to know what this guitar is, a beautiful guitar from Israel. They sent me this, and I told them, "Thank you. This is my new slide guitar," and yeah, it's a beauty, but it does more than, I just raised the action. Someone was asking earlier about, should you adjust the action on your guitar? And so I've told you that I'm in a new project here where I do a very little bit of slide, maybe on one or two tunes. And I'm using my Gretsch, which has very thick strings, and the action is not the best. I'm actually gonna have it adjusted because it's not made for shredding, it's made for just nice, emotional type chords and what have you. That's what I use it for. But I do use it for slide in this particular band. But if you're going to play slide, and I know RJ will say the same thing, is that you really do want to raise the action. And if you noticed, if you ever noticed when RJ's playing, he'll do, because he has the pinky finger using the slide, it frees up his other three fingers. So you might see him do like, can't play with my pinky here, but. Because it allows him to use these other three fingers. Very clever, and I like that too. When I was deciding to use this slide, I actually said I want to have it here so I could have a further reach. Now that I've kind of been through RJ's courses, I'm like, I kind of wish it was on my pinky now. And I could learn to do that. If it feels uncomfortable for you, understand that's just a matter of practice. You get inside your head and you think, oh no, my pinky sucks, I can't use it. It's just, will never feel the same. That's not true. It's only because you haven't practiced it enough. If you do it enough, it will feel more comfortable than whatever finger you're holding it on, okay? But I know RJ would agree that raising the action is a good thing to do. And that's how I got off on the tangent about saying that I can actually fret the guitar here, you know? This isn't very high. You're really not going to get a good idea of it there, but I mean, I can press the strings down and it's not a problem. But if I were to, say, be playing lead or something like that up here, it would be a little bit high for what I'm used to, okay? So in my opinion, in RJ's opinion, and in most slide guitar players that you're talking to, if you're really playing this kind of swampy type of stuff that you heard RJ doing, then you would want to have a guitar, a dedicated guitar with the action a bit higher if you can. And just, it doesn't have to be a whole lot, you know? Okay. Are slides expensive? I mean, they can be, but they can be affordable too. So, you know, check out Sweetwater. Just get on there and type in, are we still online? We still up?
Hold on. Hold on. We lost our feed. We'll be back in a moment.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. I'm half and half.
That one.
There we go. All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Trip over the cable.
What's your view of John Bonamassa's playing style? I mean, obviously, he's an absolute beast. He's insane. How many chords do I need to play for a song? B-Re is saying starter. B-Re. My opinion is there's about 9 of them that you need if you want to play several keys. Okay, in the key of G, in the key of C. There's about 9 what I call essential chords. In fact, that is one of the main lessons inside of the free course that I give you. Third link below. Or go to YourGuitarSage.com/30 and you'll find that video in there with a PDF that has the specific chords that you need to know. If you want to know them, here they are. G, C, D, D minor, E, E minor, 6 finger, 7, A minor, A major would be number 8, and number 9 would be the B7. If you know those chords, number 1, those are all open chords, and what we mean by open is you're not barring anything, right? So a lot of people, they have problems with bar chords. So I say don't start off with bar chords for the same reason that first graders have such a hard time in college, because it's not time for college, it's time for first grade, right? So that's why we learn things in order. So what you want to do is you want to stay in the game, and so start off with the stuff that, number 1, is going to be essential, the stuff that you're going to be using all the time. Friends, this is the stuff I'm teaching almost 24/7. I mean, yes, I get into modes and I get into some jazz theory and we get into some complicated stuff inside of the Unstoppable Guitar System, sometimes in my YouTube videos, but there's a reason that 99% of the time I'm reiterating those foundational bits, and that's because you're going to use them 100% of the time. Okay? And if you don't have a good foundation, you're never going to get the other stuff. You have to have a good foundation in order to get the other stuff, okay? Humbucker or single coil pickups really just depends on the sound that you're going for. These are P90 style, so, you know, single coil, but they're stacked. P90 is that. It's like a hot, I say it's like a, it is a hot single coil pickup. And they're not really single, they're stacked, but not the way a humbucker is stacked. Okay. I'm having trouble choosing slide size, inside diameter. Any suggestions? Davey, go to the store and try a bunch of slides. Just go to the counter and say, I want to, I'm not going to steal your slides. Like, give me a bunch of slides and let me try them out. You guys have to get in the habit of doing this. Picks, slides. Obviously, you can't really do that in strings in a store, but you can do that with amps. You could do that with guitars. Try a bunch out, because what's going to happen is you don't have to have some, doctorate in music to understand what you like. If if I pick this slide up and my fingers flopping around in it, I don't need a aeronautical degree to go, my finger's sliding around and it's too loose. So, and there's tricks then too, right? And I believe RJ talks about that in the course where like you can put tape inside of the slide or you can do things to make it work for you. This slide, speaking of what slides are made of and what have you, I have many different types of slides. I have brass, I have steel, I've got glass, you know, different types of composite and what have you. This is a composite plastic, but it sure sounds glass to me. So it's like it's not quite as alive as glass. And what I mean by that is the tone that you're getting from it. It's not quite as, it doesn't sustain quite like glass does, but it does, you know, pretty good. So in my opinion, and it just feels right to me. So go with what feels right and what sounds right to you, because at the end of the day, you're the person who you're trying to impress first anyhow. If you're not happy with your sound, you're never going to think that somebody else thinks it sounds better. So you've always got to satisfy yourself first when it comes to your sound and your tone and what have you. There's not a guitar player out there who's like, God, I sure hate my tone, but the people love it. No, Stevie Ray Vaughan loved his tone. Yngwie Malmsteen loves his tone. Randy Rhoads loved his tone. Like these guys, they tweaked their tone as to what they thought was right. And once you do that, then other people are going to dig it too. You're going to play better because of that too, okay? Muting techniques, yeah, let's talk about it because it really, this is the thing for me, one of the main things for me that made me confused. I just didn't understand how people were playing so cleanly, right? Because you grab a pick and you start playing some slide guitar and you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna play some slide. And then you start doing this and you're like, now you start sounding like a, Hawaiian, which is what everybody does at first, but then later on you want to learn some individual licks. You can't use the pick, because if you're using the pick, your hand's going away from the guitar and you're really not muting like you should. Straight from RJ's course, he taught me how to use my hands, get really handsy with the strings here to where they're being muted all the time, except for the one or possibly two strings that you're playing at once. Every now and then you'll see him go. Intonation is my issue. And it's not much of an issue, it just, I gotta practice more. That's truly what it is. And what I mean by intonation is you know a great slide player because their intonation is like spot on, right? So what that means is playing directly over that fret, and if this is the note that we're wanting to hear, I'm not going kind of higher up, right? Or lower. That's your intonation being off. But I've gotten away from the question. Oh, so as far as muting, so different, a little bit different than playing, standard non-slide, just, picking or, fretting. In that, if I'm playing, number one, a lot of the notes that you're going to be playing out, that you're going to be playing out on the electric when you're not playing slide will resonate because you're holding a particular chord or what have you. But slide is a little bit different because you don't really want to be dragging this slide across all 6 strings all the time because you're going to be hearing extraneous noises like that, or just, I'm not even picking right now, right? You're hearing all that stuff, you don't want that. But if I take my hand and I lay it on the strings and now I'm picking one string, if I'm coming up to the first string, then what I'm doing is the way I think about it is this. I take these 2 fingers, thumb and middle, and I've got my picking finger right there in the middle, first finger. And you'll see RJ do this a lot. the technique that you use is really up to you. When we teach these courses, what we're saying is this works like for so many people. It's a great rule of thumb. If you come up with another way, if you want to play slide with your toes and it works for you, then do it, break the rules. But these are the things that work often. And so what I do is I basically think about my thumb, and this middle finger is holding the two strings on either side of the string that I want to play. So for instance, my middle finger here is going to go on the first string. And then I'm going to take my thumb and put it on the third string, leaving the second string open. Now, I'm going to take my thumb and lay it across those other strings, and so that's how I would pick. So I would pick with my first finger, and all the other notes are muted. I can even do this across all the strings. Not that we really want to do that. In fact, you'll see some slide players just kind of easing up on strings 1 and 2 while they're letting those other notes ring out. That sort of thing. I'm not very accustomed to that. I've seen RJ do that, and he's great at it. But nonetheless, don't start off trying to get polyphonic, many voices, many strings at once. Don't do that at first. Just stick with some basic scales and or melodies. You know, and some basic licks. The licks course that RJ has on sale for you, second link below, is great for these types of licks, okay? So again, thumb, middle finger, and then what I do is I move that around. So if I want to play on this second string, and then I want to move to the first string, I just move it accordingly. So watch my hand here. Now there I lifted my hands off the strings because I'm just kind of catching that chord up top. Hopefully that answers that question for you guys. All right. Okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so play on the fret. So when you guys are playing like standard, right, not slide, we are used to playing in between the frets. So if I wanted to play fret 3, I can be back here, I could be up here. You've taken my course, so you know I'm going to instruct you to go a little bit closer to the fret because it means less work for you, okay? But technically what's happening is we're pressing down that string, and if you look, oftentimes if your technique is proper enough, your finger won't even be touching the fretboard. Maybe a little bit, but not a lot. Definitely where you're pressing, the string is not touching the fretboard. Don't believe me? Try it. Look and see. You can slip something underneath there, a piece of paper, and it'll move freely underneath the string where your finger's at. Or it can if you're fretting properly, right? But when we press down, what's happening is it's making contact with the fret that's just right above it. So here I am at the third. We call it the third fret. It's not. It's in between the second and third. But we call it the third fret because as I press it down, it's actually initiating the third fret there. So I can play back here. It's the same, right? So it's pressing down right there on or it's making contact with the fret wire number 3 right there. And so that's how we get that perfect intonation. Using a slide is akin to playing the violin or some other fretless instrument where the intonation is up to you, or like singing. We don't have frets when we sing, right? We just get accustomed to do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, we get accustomed to singing those different intervallic relationships. So when you're using the slide, you want to be directly over that wire. In fact, I suggest taking the slide and looking at it like that from the side and hearing where you need to be. Okay, and then like as far as vibrato and what have you, you always want to come back to center. So if you're just like you would if you were using regular vibrato on the guitar without slide, you can't bend the string up to a pitch unless that's what you're going for. If you're going for an A, then you have to always come back to A in your vibrato. If you don't, then you're going to start losing the pitch. If it's slightly above an A, but you've got that vibrato, then it's going to sound like it's out of intonation, right? Cool. So slide is akin to playing fretless bass. It is, or any fretless instrument, because you don't have the frets to guide you now. You are literally on your own. Okay. Oh, good. Sing is in the chorus. Beautiful. Okay, Frank's saying playing chords underneath. If you're talking about slide, I would not be the guy to ask. That would have been a great question for RJ. I can tell you at the end of the day, it's always about practice, and it's always about focused practice. So if you're trying a particular lick and you're wanting to play that chord underneath, my suggestion to you, and I know RJ would say the same thing, but he may have some specific technique question that he could add on top of this, but I can tell you the best thing to do would be take that lick, take that chord that you're working on, and use my looping method that I talk about inside of UGS, where I say, hey, do this one little part seamlessly, create a seamless loop, nice and slow with focused attention as possible so that you can see where it is that you're falling short. And then once you see when you're falling short, you correct it, play it real slow, integrate it, and then as you get better at it, then you can speed it up. Cool? Okay. Can you basically play any sound within 2 frets? You wanted to, I just noticed. So Shannon, what I was saying was that when you play in between the frets, whether I'm here or here, it's the same pitch. The only time it would change is if I went above or below the fret, right? So I have to move beyond that wire. I think that's what you're asking, okay? All right, good night, Rick. So, when you're doing this, if you guys are planning on taking RJ's course, which I hope you do, because it was a blast for me, honestly. Like I said, I've dorked around with slide a bit, but everybody has, right? You buy a slide and you're like, I don't know why I don't sound like Dwayne Allman. Why is that? Well, because you just got the slide, right? It's a brand new tool and you're treating the guitar entirely different, okay? Hand a slide to Yngwie Malmsteen and he will not sound like the Yngwie that we know. He will not, okay? I don't think he plays slide. How can he? He wants to shred, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Joe, this will stay up on YouTube, so make sure you got to see the first half because that's when RJ was here and he was asking those real specific questions as far as slide, okay? All right. Alrighty, my friends, we are at the 1 hour mark here, and I think we are gonna head on out because we got lots of stuff to do, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Oh, Mike, we don't by chance have that one, we don't have that one segment, do we?
I do.
You do? Is it something we can show? If not, it's no big deal.
We could.
Okay. Friends, so we want to start, we did this at one point and then we got, we canned a few people and we started from scratch again here. So our show, we had a show, we had segments and what have you. We want to integrate those back in so it's not just me talking to you for an hour and answering questions. I know that you guys like that part and I love it too. Demonstrating and pointing you to here and there, wherever you can find the answers. But we also want to bring in some segments for you too, just to make things fun. And one of the segments that I wanted to bring in for you were fails, like people on stage just massively failing. Because for me, number Number one, it's amazing to watch. And number two, it gives you some sort of understanding as to, I bet you your mistakes are not as bad as these. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Really quickly before we, now let's go ahead and let's do that now, and then we'll end it in just a minute here. So Mike, if that's ready, let's go ahead and show one of these to the folks.
For the record, I have no idea what I'm about to show. Just one of them.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I was watching the, yeah. Okay. Oh my God, that is absolutely amazing. I was watching these a bunch the other night and was just howling, and my wife's like, "What are you talking about?" Absolutely no reaction from the soloist. He's like, "I'm good here, right?" So, if you mess up on stage, friends, it's okay. You're never gonna mess up that bad. I mean, dear God, you get into something like that where it's not just a moment in time, but you know that guy's gonna go through the whole solo like that. That could be an issue. So anyhow, don't worry. Get out there on stage. Get to playing with some folks. You're not gonna break anything. Okay. Friends, thanks so much for coming out. Really appreciate it. Thank you for dealing with us with all the technical difficulties and everything. We really appreciate it. And again, RJ, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for taking the time to show the folks all about slide guitar. Friends, first link, second link below. The first link is the slide course right now that's on sale. It's $9.99. I think normally it's like $39.99, $49, something like that. But much cheaper. Get it right now. And then the licks course, if you're already a slide player, check out RJ's licks course. In fact, if you go through those links, number one, you're gonna get it for the cheapest you can find it. And then number two, you will be able to watch a few videos in there, the first 2-3 videos, something like that, into the course. So at least do that. Have fun with them. All right, friends, I'm out here. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.